Okay, so today I'm going to try and do the real basics. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to diet, when it comes to management of diabetes, and it's something that I think always sparks people's interest as well, because food is not only what we put in our mouth to survive, but it's social, it's psychological. There are so many different aspects around food and eating. So me just telling you don't eat this and eat this instead, it's not as simple as that, and as dietitians we're highly aware of that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Fathima. I am a dietitian, so I have studied nutrition and then gone on further to study dietetics, which is, as Dr. Mumbi mentioned, a further specialization or a little bit of extra knowledge there. So it does make a big difference when you're deciding who to see. And I actually learned so much from him. I didn't realize what a big difference there was between an optician and an ophthalmologist. So here I am as a health professional learning things today, so that's awesome. So the goal essentially of dietary management, and what I want us to take away, or what I want us to say, is that I want to be able to give you the very basic knowledge around what you should be eating and how much you should be eating and the quality that you should be eating when it comes to managing your blood sugar levels. So we've had a really good background around what diabetes is, and I think it's really, really important to understand the relationship between your insulin and your blood sugar levels, okay? So insulin is that hormone that your body produces that comes in, and if your sugar gets a little bit higher than it needs to be, or a little bit lower than it needs to be, it's the one that comes in and fixes things. It's kind of like your body temperature. If your body temperature was higher than it needs to be, you end up with a fever. And if it's lower than it needs to be, we generally end up with something negative, like hypothermia or the like. Okay, so it's really important to understand that as a diabetic, regardless of whether you're a type 1 and you're not producing any at all, or if you're type 2 and you just don't have enough, or maybe your insulin is just being a little bit naughty and doesn't want to listen and do what it's supposed to do, regardless, we need to control that increase and prevent that drop. And we do that through the food that we eat, okay? So the only way really to get sugar in your blood is from the food that we eat. That's where we get energy, okay? And we use this term a lot, sugar. So sugar is essentially glucose, and that's the scientific term for sugar. And when your body breaks down any kind of carbohydrate, what you get as energy, or the form of energy that you're getting, is glucose, okay? Have too much of that in your blood generally tends to go higher than it needs to be with regards to blood glucose or blood sugar levels, and have too little of that, and it also has the potential to drop, okay? So not all the food that we eat gives us glucose as energy, okay? We have different types of energy, and these are our three major ones, okay? We've got carbohydrates, we've got proteins, and we've got fats. Okay, and what we're going to focus on today, purely because of time, is carbohydrates, because this is the group of foods that your body breaks down, and that's how you get glucose as a form of energy, okay? Protein is not going to give your body glucose, and fats are not going to give your body glucose as energy. Those are two different types of energy. It's kind of like when you go to the petrol station, and you've got different types of fuel, yeah? You've got different types of fuel for your body as well. So if we have a look at carbohydrates, which again, when it comes to the dieting world, it's another whole topic in itself. But if you were the diesel car, what fuel would you be putting into your tank every time you went to the petrol station? Yeah, so that's what carbohydrates are to you. So absolutely, we do not want to be cutting these out, okay? So really, really important. So let's get people thinking a little bit now, and shout out your carbohydrate foods to me. Rice, yep. Shima, pasta, bread, potatoes. Butternut's a vegetable. So that's a very common one though, that we often think is a carbohydrate, but it's not. Chocolate. I've seen my patients in this room. You all know the answers to this. And you have the answers. Okay, so the first group essentially is your dairy food, okay? So your dairy food is your milk, your sour milk, your yogurt, okay? Cheeses and cream or any of your very high fat kind of dairy products are not really considered carbohydrates because they have very small amounts, so we don't stress about them. But those are the ones you want to have a look at. And then all of your fruits, okay? So whether it's a fruit juice or a fruit salad or a canned fruit or something flavored with fruit. As long as the fruit is there, it's going to contain carbohydrates in it as well. Then we've got what we call our starchy vegetables. So this is where the butternut confusion comes in and the pea confusion comes in. So generally when we're talking about starchy vegetables, potato, sweet potato, cassava, taro, corn, and maize. Those are your major ones. Butternut and peas and carrots and a couple of other ones do have a little bit of carbs in them, but not enough for us to worry about it. Okay? So just scrap them from your list and enjoy a little bit more, okay? Then lentils and legumes, groundnuts, beans, lentils, dals, chickpeas, all contain carbohydrates, even though they are very high in protein as well. So there are some foods that tend to fall underneath all of them. And then there's our lucky last, which we all shouted out and got every single one except for cereal. So we definitely understand carbohydrates to be cereals and grains, but as a diabetic, it does become important to understand fruit, dairy, starchy vegetables, lentils, and legumes are all in there, okay? So when it comes to quality, that is the most important thing, or the biggest thing that I find people don't really understand or can make the biggest difference in terms of management of their blood sugars. All right, so when we talk about quality of a carbohydrate, we're talking about the speed at which you digest something. The faster that you digest something, the faster your sugar is going to go up. And the slower that you digest something, the more gradually your sugar is going to go up. So which one of those two do you think is going to be more beneficial for you as a diabetic? The slow, the gradual. Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about quality of carbohydrates. If we can move away from the more refined sort of grains like our white rices and our white breads and our breakfast meal and shima, and move towards the brown rice, I know, we'll talk about how to do it. The roller meal and shima, the whole wheat pasta, the whole wheat bread, the more of a demand that we as a population put on the food industry for these things, the more available it's also going to become for us. So that's important to remember. I don't expect anyone to click their fingers and go from eating white rice every single day, twice a day, to brown rice straight away. Okay? We completely understand that it takes time. You might go from mongo rice and make a swap to basmati rice, or a less starchy rice. That could be your first change. The next one could be that you maybe do half white and half brown, and then you slowly build it up. Okay? So these are strategies and things that we sit down with you as an individual when you come along to see a dietitian that we can really, really help you with. So if we use another example besides grains, fruit is another one. So if I was going to give one of you an apple to eat and the other one I was going to hand you, you know, a 1 liter apple juice, in that time that it takes the first one of you to eat the apple, how much juice do you think you could drink? And what difference do you think that's going to make in terms of the impact on your body and on your blood sugar levels? So the longer something takes to chew, the better it's going to be for you. And that's going to be my rule of thumb that I'm going to leave you with today in terms of quality of carbohydrates. So that roughage, that fiber that everyone is talking about now is essentially what slows down digestion. Okay, the harder it is for you to cook, the harder it is for you to digest, the slower the process, the better it is for your blood sugar levels. Okay, and usually if you've got food that takes long to empty from your stomach, it means you're going to be full for longer. So coming along to see a dietitian is, we're not here to tell you to stop eating everything or to make you hungry, suffice what everyone believes, okay? We're here to help you get to those little small achievable goals one at a time, because if it's something that you can do sustainably, you're going to do it long term, and you're going to manage your sugars long term, not just for the first month after you get diagnosed. Okay, so it is really important that part of the team, you're seeing someone that can help support you. There are so many things that we can teach you when it comes to diet, in terms of, for type 1 diabetics, how to count your carbohydrates. And this is something that's very mathematical and takes a lot of time, but I've got some people in the room that I've been teaching since they were small, and they're amazing at it. All they need to do is look at their food and know how to adjust their insulin and match it up and do what they need to do. So this is something that takes time. But remember, timing, the total amount of carbohydrates, and the type are very, very important, okay? And when we talked about matching insulin, normally what we're talking about is the amount of carbohydrate that you put into your body. If you're someone who's injecting insulin, you need to inject the right amount to match the amount that you've put into your body. And this is something that I think Kajal will be able to answer, and any type 1 diabetic, so anyone who injects insulin will be able to answer even better than me. All right, so what about sugar? Can I eat sugar? Am I never allowed to have sugar? Well, it's all about moderation, okay? It's all about the amount, okay? So if you're going to be having lots and lots of sugar in your tea every day, 3 times a day, then of course it's going to add up and it's going to affect your blood sugar levels. But if you can control yourself to a teaspoon of either honey or sugar or whichever sweetener you prefer in your cup, that's a good reference. It doesn't mean that sugar can never enter your body. It's all about control and figuring it out as an individual. Okay, we mentioned alcohol, yes? So when it comes to beverages, absolutely, this is the ones that we can chug in and throw in a lot more energy at a lot faster pace than you can even imagine. So watch that. We drink because we're thirsty, so stick to your water. Again, if you drink Coke every single day and you want to graduate yourself slowly, do that. Don't just rip the Band-Aid if that's not the kind of person you are, because you're just going to do it for a couple of days, and research shows us within the first week you're going to give up on all those major changes, and we will be back at square one again. So do it slowly, okay? Alcohol, if you have it with your meal versus away from your meal, as a diabetic, that makes a big difference, okay? So we always encourage that if you are going to have a glass of wine, have it with your dinner as opposed to having it away from your meal. It makes a big difference, because you can imagine if you throw in something that is high GI and combine it with dinner that might have been a big plate of vegetables and a nice juicy steak with a little bit of rice, that's going to have a totally different digestive impact compared to if you were going to have 3 glasses of wine just by itself on an empty stomach. So combining it with your meals is a really important tip. But the other one is portions. So it doesn't mean that you're never allowed to drink, but when it comes to being a diabetic, 100% portions is really, really, really important for you. So for women, we recommend 1 alcoholic drink, and for men, 2. All right, that's usually in an entire day. And for diabetics, I try and stick to weekends only or on occasion, okay? I know that this is something that people will always fight me on, so I try to be as liberal as I can. I'm gonna end off with how to treat a low sugar, because this is something that I think is very important and people often get wrong. I can almost say always get wrong. So 100%, you need to carry something sweet with you, okay? So when you do that, if your sugar is lower than it needs to be, all right, when you take something sweet, it's gonna bring it up quickly. But it's just gonna go back down quickly again after that if you don't follow it by something that's gonna keep it up, okay? So say, for example, your sugar drops at about 13 hours and you know that at 13:30 it's lunchtime. That's a good time to have a couple of sips of Coke, or have a few of those jelly beans from your handbag, or the couple of squares of chocolate that you've been waiting to have, okay? But that meal that's coming afterwards is what's going to help keep it up.
And if it's going to happen at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're not going to eat again for another 3 hours, then your sugar's just going to go right back down again. So usually when you know that the next meal or the next snack is quite far away, follow it with something significant, okay? And that's what I think I'm going to end on for today. My slides have a little bit of a sample meal plan, and someone has already talked about the importance of monitoring your sugars as well. So in summary, what we're going to say is eat regularly, okay? Try not to skip your meals so your sugars don't drop and that you have better control over your appetite. Know your foods that contain carbohydrates. Try and choose the best quality possible. Limit your really sugary or very sweetened kind of beverages. Limit things like salt if you have blood pressure, because it makes a difference. And stay active, which I believe we're going to have a separate presentation on. So I've brought along copies of my book, which I've put on special for half price today. If anyone's interested in getting a copy, you can come and see me at the back.